Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, another finger on the monkey's paw curls as Persona 4 Arena comes to Switch. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, including whatever the heck happened at the Game Awards and Nintendo's expanding headquarters. And then on Thursday, we are going to be comparing fifth years for Nintendo consoles. But in the meantime, Mark Mitchell, how's it going?
It's going great. I feel like that would be my newscaster name.
Mark. It's just doing the what's his name? It was like an MTV / like Pepsi like mascot thing that was like he was like a little like he was a glitchy like computer character. Do you remember
Max Headroom?
Is that right?
I
don't
you
know.
Tell me.
I don't know. I was about to agree with you. I'm coming into like this is a weird landing for me at the beginning of this episode. I had forgotten what joke we wrote for the cold open, and then I couldn't say your name.
Yeah, I think it is. I feel confident in saying that it's
Max Headroom.
Yeah.
Okay, the guy who looks like he's got like a plastic face.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. Then it is Max Headroom. Thank you, Mark, for getting my back. Speaking of places and ways that we have to get each other's back, we've got a little bit of a debug as it relates to our Thursday episode coming out. We recently read an article wherein Doug Bowser was talking about the Switch's fifth year, and we were like, yep, Switch's fifth year, that's right. And then we got a message from a listener saying like, hey, is it really the Switch's fifth year? 2017, right? 17 to 21, that's only 4. And then on a subsequent episode, we were like, yeah, we messed that up. It's only the 4th year. But no, 17 to 18 is 1, 18 to 19 is 2, 19 to 20 is 3, 20 to 21 is 4, 21 to 22, which we're in right now, is the Switch's 5th year.
Yeah. I think we were thrown off by birthday math, you know?
Yeah. Well, and just like math, right? We were just doing a little subtraction.
Yeah. I mean, Matt, this is not the first time math has got the better of me.
Yeah, nor me. And it's also not the first time that we've just blindly believed what someone told us.
That's right. When Doug Bowser told us it was the 5th year, we were like, sure, makes sense. When a listener was like, is it though? We were like, I don't know. We're not going to do any critical thinking for ourselves.
So that is why on the Thursday episode, we are going to be digging into 5th years, really atoning for our sins, and just sort of comparing the Switch's 5th year to all the other consoles' 5th years, just to like kind of take the temperature of it, get the pulse. How's it doing?
5th year, which we are in right now,
we acknowledge that we're in right now. We know and we believe it,
but we will not apologize to Doug Bowser.
No, and sorry to Pete for not interrogating your suggestion any further. Speaking of things we should apologize for, the Sonic Forces borrowing program. Would you like to borrow my copy of Sonic Forces? You can. All you got to do is email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com. I send you my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch. You play it for as long as you want. You send it back. Doesn't cost you anything.
Another thing you can do is you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you leave us a 5-star review on the U.S. Apple Podcast Store, we'll give you a shout out on the show. If you leave us a review anywhere else, or you share the show or promote it on Twitter or whatever you do, let us know. Send us an email. Hit us up on Twitter. We'd love to give you a shout out.
We would love it just so much. Also, the end of this month, and also by extension, the end of this year, we are just playing Sega Genesis games as they appear on the Nintendo Switch Online, plus expansion pack. Expansion pack or pass?
Pack.
P-A-C-K or P-A-K?
I believe P-A-C-K.
There's some inconsistent branding here, Nintendo. Week 1, the week of Christmas, we are playing Gunstar Heroes, Rise Star, and Golden Axe. Week 2, the week of New Year's, we are playing Phantasy Star 4, The End of the Millennium, Strider, and Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. So if you are subscribed to the service and want to play along, you should do it. I'm very much looking forward to discussing all of these games with you, Mark.
As am I.
But right now, we should talk about the games that we've been playing this week. So let's do it. Let's talk about what we've been playing. Before we move on to more substantive things, Animal Crossing, how you doing?
I've been at this point I am just playing Animal Crossing to play Animal Crossing, and whatever happens is gonna happen. There are a few things.
I like that you said that as though that wasn't what you set out to do.
No, it's not. I set out to try to play Happy Home Paradise, and now I'm just doing regular Animal Crossing stuff.
Yeah.
Although by this time last year, I had gotten rid of my island, and so this is the first time I'm experiencing snow and all of that kind of stuff, which is very fun. But I feel like I am not really making a ton of progress towards getting KK to come to my island and presumably opening up some other things. But I have been planting flowers and things like that, so I don't know if there's like
build some fences.
I guess I actually really have to, despite not wanting to for whatever reason, going to have to build some fences.
Mark, I think you're gonna have to play the game. Is what you're gonna have to do.
I know. Well, let's see. Timmy and Tommy's store just expanded.
Okay.
And so it's like, I don't know, do those things have to happen before KK can show up?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm a ways off then.
Yeah, I don't.
Do you know what? One thing I'd
love to see your island as it is now.
There's really not much to see, but actually,
this is why KK's not coming.
I know. Yeah, that's totally true. One thing I have not done yet is I haven't gone to Harv's Island. Harv has like shown up and been like, "Hey, you want to come to my island?" But I haven't yet, and so I am curious if I go to Harv's Island now, if I'm able to engage the. What is it like? Is it like the DLC version where I can spend bells, or I'm guessing probably not?
No, I'm guessing it probably is, because that's not part of the paid DLC. It's just part of like the regular update to the game.
Right.
So, and you know what that does, the spending bells, that brings the various vendors like to his island on like a permanent basis. So you never have to like wait for Sahara the rug dealer to like come to your island. She's just always there.
Right.
Ditto Red, ditto Leaf, and any of these characters that are selling, whatever they sell. So I think though they should all be there, but none of that really should have anything to do with getting KK to your island.
Yeah, I guess that's true. So I don't know. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
But it's not what I set out to do. I just wanted to get to Happy Home Paradise, and that's kind of like just what I want to do at this point.
Yeah.
But otherwise, things are going great.
Well, let me know if I can ever bring anything over to your island and just like drop it off.
Yeah, one thing I am trying to or I shouldn't say try to, because I've made zero effort to do this so far, is I need to find a community where people are actively posting when
turnips
are
you buying turnips?
I have not been.
I see.
But I think it would just be an easy way to get a ton of bells.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy how you can like take it seriously for 1 week and then never worry about money again.
Yeah.
Because you can just make so much of it by finding, wherever it is, the island that has like 400 bell turnips, and then just selling them there.
Yeah. So I need to do some sort of research to figure out where there are communities that are posting this stuff still.
I would go to Reddit.
Yeah, that's a good call. It's a great starting point. I've actually been playing a ton of other games this week.
Well, let's run them down, but first I think let's just touch base with, there was a Tetris Maximus.
Yeah, that's right.
Tetris Maximus Cup this weekend. That was Mario Party Superstars themed, and it was super fun and super cute. And I love every time I have an excuse to go back to playing Tetris 99.
Yeah, me too. And I love the different themes. This time I didn't really like the music that much, or at least the first 50 people
yeah.
music. It was too like carnival-y.
It's very carnival-y. Like cute to the point of being like kind of treacly and gross.
Yeah.
But after that, like in the top 50 and then again in the top 10, the music is kind of more like fun. So yeah, I like that one a lot. And I mentioned this to you, but I feel like Nintendo's got to be better about publicizing these things, because like you and I are plugged into this, and I care a lot about Tetris 99. How don't I know?
I know. I feel like they used to announce them like earlier on like Monday or something. So we
talked about it on the show.
Right, exactly. When we
God bless you, Mark.
Excuse me.
Yes.
When we were getting ready for the show, we would include it in the show notes. But I feel like they have switched to announcing them on like Tuesday or Wednesday after we have compiled our show notes, and so it goes unnoticed.
Yeah, well, to us and our listenership at the very least, it makes me wonder if our recommendation of checking out a Tetris Maximus Cup has such a negative effect that they're like, we gotta wait till after NCS is posted.
Right, that's right.
But tell me about the other games you've been playing.
So, Paper Mario came to the Nintendo Switch Online last week, and I have started it. This is my first time playing it in who knows how many years. And boy, does Paper Mario, other than graphically where sometimes like sprites just don't look that awesome on a Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
But otherwise, what a great game. Like,
okay, good. I wasn't sure where that was gonna land.
Yeah, the game is amazing. The gameplay system with like the badges and the individual companions who you can like use one at a time, like so good. The writing in this series has been amazing from day one, and there is so much dialogue in this game in like a positive way where, you know, you go to Peach's castle at the very beginning of the game and there are a bunch of different characters from all over the world, and you talk to them and they all have their own individual dialogue. You don't have to talk to any of them, but if you do, they all have like clever dialogue. Like it's an amazing game. If you've never played the original Paper Mario before, if you started the series with like Sticker Star or Color Splash or something that where they started moving away from a more just kind of like traditional RPG system, I really recommend that you check out the original Paper Mario. I don't think it's that long of a game, but the characters are amazing. The music is really good. And the battle system where like you earn badge points and then you get you collect different badges that have different like abilities or buffs, and then you have to mix and match badges based on how many badge points you have. Yeah. Like, it's just a really smart, simple system that's a lot of fun to use. Definitely recommend Paper Mario.
I am very excited to get into it. I am currently playing, and obviously we'll talk about it more in weeks to come, Phantasy Star for the End of the Millennium. So I'm sort of like up to my teeth in like lengthy RPGs with systems I don't quite understand. So you know, after we record and I don't have to think about that game ever again, then I will definitely get into Paper Mario and be in that joy space with you.
And then I've also been playing Zelda Skyward Sword. Been a while, but made some more progress in that. So I think I'm maybe to the point where you are now, assuming you haven't played much since then.
Yeah.
I just finished the like sand ship.
Yeah.
The pirate ship. Mm-hmm. Probably my least favorite dungeon like thing so far, only because it feels like a lot of backtracking.
Yeah, it definitely is.
And
well, it's all like based around that like time shifting thing, which like novel. And when you're in like the areas where like those little robot-y guys are, like it can be very interesting to like see the spaces one way and then see them another. But yeah, when you start to get like too deep into dungeons, it can start to feel repetitive.
There's also just not that much like, it's not visually very interesting.
Right.
That ship, because it's in the middle of like a dry desert. The ship is, you know, like run down when you don't have the time stone shifted. Also, I am finding on the Switch the bow and arrow to be wildly inaccurate, because when I'm like, and maybe I was sitting too far back from the TV or something, but like when I was aiming, the calibration would be like shifting all the time, so I'd be aiming one place, but like it was not. So it'd take me like 5 arrows to hit the
interesting.
time stone. So I don't know
I
what
wonder if-
like the deal was.
I wonder if there's something like funky in your gyro.
Yeah, that that could be true, because I do have to like reset like all the time.
Oh, I'm resetting all the time too.
Okay.
But yeah, just constantly like hitting that Y button or whatever it is. Yeah.
But I still really love this game. Like I've said before, I think maybe playing it in chunks is doing it more favors. But I really liked the mini boss on this pirate ship, where like it's a narrow corridor, or you're on like the stern of the ship basically.
Yeah.
And it's a really narrow area, and all you can do is try to push back this giant skeleton pirate.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's like a really simple boss fight, but I found it to be really fun and satisfying.
Yeah, it's neat how frequently it turns like individual enemy encounters, be they like halfway bosses or like full-time bosses, into like a unique sort of like motion control puzzle kind of thing, and in a way that never feels like it's breaking the rules that you've been playing by the whole time, but in a way that still feels like unique to that moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then I've been playing our Genesis games, including Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, which I'm very excited to talk about with you in 2 weeks. But I've also been spending a little more time with my Legend of Zelda Game & Watch, the 35th anniversary or whatever the actual branding is on it, and playing the original Legend of Zelda in Japanese. So it's the Famicom disc drive version of it. So it has all those like extra sounds, and so it's just like everything from like sword arrows sound a little different to like the music has like one more little like layer of like weird wobbly sound effect to it. It's just kind of like fun and neat to be like experiencing something new in a game I've played so many times. And so I'm like halfway through it right now. And I don't know, the original Zelda is so fun to just like go back to, and like so much of it is in my memory, but I also have like big blind spots where like I don't remember where the second dungeon is. I have to look it up every time and be like, where is it? Oh, it's over here. Otherwise I go 1, 3, 4, and then I start like wandering around looking for 2. But yeah, what a great fun game. And I really like playing games on those like little handhelds. I hope Nintendo keeps making them, just because I don't know, it's a fun, novel way to play classic games.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me that they did like 2 in a row. Kind of like where we have with like the classic editions, and then it's just then they're done.
Right. Well, but like we didn't know about this Zelda one until when did we know? When did we find out about it?
I feel like it was
it E3?
Was it E3 when they did those handful of Zelda announcements?
Yeah, I think yes, that's right. So and the but the Mario one we didn't know about until September last year.
Yeah, like August or something.
Yeah, whenever they did the Mario Direct. So we'll find out about these things when Nintendo decides we are worthy to find out about them. But I hope they keep it up. All right, well that's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
I would say the most notable release this week is yesterday, Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon was released on the Switch eShop.
I'm so excited to try this game. I still don't understand what the gameplay of it is, but it's Shovel Knight, and I trust them, so I'm in. I can't wait to play it.
And is this the one that is developed by Yacht Club Games?
Mark, you know what? I don't even know. I think it is.
I think you're right.
But it might not be.
But anyways, that's for my money pretty much the big release this week.
Yeah, I think that is really all we really got coming out this week. All right, Mark. Let's close the segment out. Which brings us to a regular segment on our show. It is time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or a group of performers did not play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance, 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, you have written out the prompt. If you would please read it aloud to us.
Yeah, I feel like we should discuss the ugliest piece of clothing we've ever owned.
And then I just wanted on record, you came up with this topic before seeing what I was wearing today.
That's right. That's right. Sight unseen.
That's right. Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure you weren't subtweeting me to my face.
Yeah.
So there was, I don't know if this is the ugliest thing I've ever owned, but it's maybe one of the more confusing articles of clothing I've ever owned. And it's a young me article of clothing, like a elementary school me. But it was a like a sort of mint blue t-shirt / tank top over it combo, like sewn together. And the tank top over it was like a blue like sports mesh, and there was some kind of logo in the middle of it that I don't remember. But this is one article of clothing. And I know I was wearing it in some kind of like school picture or something. So like it is on display in my parents' house forever.
The one for me that jumps to mind immediately is also from like a school photo, like 4th grade. And it's short sleeves.
Yeah.
But has a hood.
Okay.
And is like on the front divided into 4 like squares. And one is red, one is yellow, like one is blue, one is green, but then the whole like shirt itself is green.
Wow.
And it's really shocking to see it in person.
Yeah, that's I like colorful clothes. I don't wear a ton of them, but that's too colorful.
Yeah, and I feel like as I got older and as an adult, I have a lot of terrible clothing choices, but it's not so much like the clothing themselves. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like,
no,
it's the way I wore it, or the accessories, or now this was not just me, but there was a time period 20 years ago where you didn't wear a short sleeve shirt without a long sleeve shirt under it, or another short sleeve shirt under it. Like
yes.
Multiple shirts were being worn, or like a t-shirt, but there's a collared shirt underneath.
Right. A collared shirt under a t-shirt?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. That it's so it's popping out the top.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay. No, that does make sense. I actually just realized I'm wearing a fairly ugly shirt right now under my sweater, which I'm only wearing because I was like, I need something under the sweater. But this is I'm pretty sure I'm wearing this shirt. Yeah. So this is a gray like shirt from The Force Awakens that says The First Order on it, and it's got like a picture of Kylo Ren, and it's all like the shirt itself is gray, but like all the print on it is like red.
What a fun celebration of fascism.
I mean, right? This is what it is. And my mother got it for me for Christmas the year Force Awakens came out. And then we saw the movie together, and she was like, I wouldn't have gotten that if I'd known they were the bad guys.
That's really cute.
But it makes a good like undershirt, so I keep
Oh
it
yeah,
around.
I mean, I feel like I have a pile of shirts specifically for wearing under other things.
Yeah. I actually just recently got rid of a Resident Evil 2 remake shirt that I got from E3 a couple years ago, because it looks like it's got the Resident Evil Police Department like logo on the front of it, and then there's like blood splatter all over it, and the blood is so much blood splatter, so it's like it's too much. But there are also like fake bullet holes on it. Oh, I guess we'll never know. The other thing was it also has like teeth marks on it, but the teeth marks are for a mouth that's like too small. So it's like you've been bit by a baby zombie or something. We were accompanied today by listener Steven. Steve Plays on YouTube. All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
Japanese newspaper Nikkei reports that Nintendo is planning 2 new major office expansions to bring more development in-house.
Interesting.
So beginning in May 2022, Nintendo will rent the 6th and 7th floors of the Kyoto City Waterworks Bureau's new government building that is located right next to Nintendo's current headquarters. And then also planned is an entirely new building on the site of Nintendo's former headquarters. The site currently has Nintendo Kyoto Research Center and the Mario Club QA team, but there's a large area of empty land that presumably that's where they're going to build this new building.
And this is all like expressly for development purposes?
Yeah, so the newspaper specifically calls out that it's for bringing like more developers and bringing development in-house. And then just, like a few months ago at Nintendo's conference, like investor conference, they didn't explicitly call these out, but they did talk about expanding and bringing in, like, building up more development staff.
Yeah.
And so this seems to be part of that.
And we just a couple weeks ago got news of the Redwood City, California office closing, and was it the Toronto office? There was another Canadian office that were both not development houses, or there's no development house there. It's all like marketing and sort of like market research stuff. But it seems interesting that is Nintendo sort of like shifting some of their assets from marketing to development? Have they gotten too good at marketing and need to move into it seems like there's a little shift in priorities that we're seeing play out here.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I feel like there are so many times, well, two things.
Yes.
One, Nintendo's going to do whatever Nintendo's going to do, and there's no way for us from the outside to rationalize or explain it.
Right.
But two,
there's no way to predict it before it happens.
Right.
There's no way to explain it after it happens.
Well, but yeah, exactly. But the second part of it is that a lot of times we talk about why doesn't Nintendo do this, or this seems so obvious, but the truth is that as big as Nintendo is, it is actually a very small company, and so they don't have the resources to pursue all of these projects. They have to be very picky about what they pursue.
Right.
And I think that's where they've started working with third-party development teams, like Bandai Namco and Koei Tecmo, because they have more expertise in these areas, or they just Nintendo just needs the bodies, right? A lot of what Monolith Soft does for Nintendo, they develop their own games, but they also have teams that are just bodies on Nintendo games to, get them released on time.
I mean, that's how we got Breath of the Wild.
Right, exactly. And so I think that potentially Nintendo is chafing up against, the limits of the size of their current in-house development teams. And so I think this is looking to address that.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting, just thinking about Nintendo's place in the market, as we, and we'll get to the Game Awards in a little bit, but that was an award show that was about announcements on other platforms, almost exclusively. If something was coming to Switch, it was sort of incidental. And we've lived through many dark ages of Nintendo not being a dominant player or even really putting out interesting stuff. So I wonder if they are, now knowing that the Switch is the only pillar they have, if they are sort of thinking about how to preserve that and keep that going forward with the development teams they either have or can grow to have.
Yeah, totally. It was reported last week that NES and SNES lead architect Masayuki Uemura has passed away at the age of 78. He joined Nintendo in the 70s, was working on, original toys and some of the stuff that eventually turned into the NES Zapper he worked on, but then also the lead architect for the NES and SNES.
The Zapper featuring one of the best buttons on any Nintendo controller.
That's right. As announced at last week's Cardies.
Mm-hmm.
Also happening last week, something you may have heard about, the Game Awards also happened last Thursday. Nintendo.
I mean, if you say so, Mark.
Nintendo didn't really. They had no announcements this year.
Right. And maybe not wholly unexpected, right? A lot of their Game Awards presence in the past has been sort of like revolved around their Smash Brothers DLC character releases. 3 years ago was Joker. Last year was another character, Sephiroth, maybe.
Yeah, Sephiroth.
But yeah, that is such like an easy way for them to like dribble out, more and like interesting stuff that people actually care about. And that they didn't have something like that for this year.
Yeah, I feel like more often than not, they don't really have anything that's like groundbreaking. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Game Awards as a like avenue for big announcements is still kind of new. It's really only been when last week when we went through like the history of it and what Nintendo's done the last couple of years, we hit 2015 and it's like they didn't announce anything here. And when we recap next year, we'll be like, they didn't do anything in 2021.
That's right.
But before that, I think 2014 was the first like Game Awards under that name. So, it's whatever we think either Nintendo's relationship is with that show or even what that show's relationship is to making announcements is still like something being formed by time.
The Nintendo was nominated in a number of categories. It won Metroid Dread won Best Action Adventure Game. And I thought it was really funny that It Takes Two ended up winning Best Family Game only because it was the only non-Nintendo game that was nominated for Best Family Game.
Yeah, the other Best Family Game nominees were Mario Party Superstars, New Pokemon Snap, New Super Mario 3D World, not new, but Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, and WarioWare Get It Together, and they all lost to It Takes Two. And It Takes Two also won like Best Game. So like, I don't know, maybe that's why they couldn't compete. Or maybe just because none of those 4 Nintendo games are like obvious standouts for Best Family Game. There's no Animal Crossing in that list, right?
Well, people obviously really liked It Takes Two, and
yes.
That's a game that I would like to play. But so I bet a bunch of people voted for it in Best Family Game as well, because they're like, we want to guarantee it wins something,
right?
Even if it doesn't win Game of the Year.
Yeah, which is, I mean, so much of this is like, how do votes get split, and like where are people's like, they want to like give something to something, like the Metroid Dread winning Action Adventure Game of the Year almost feels like we're not going to give a Game of the Year, but it was a really good game.
Yeah.
So,
do we need to start one of those like Derby podcasts, but for the Game Awards, where we're talking about like
the
inside, like the inside scoop, who's schmoozing who?
Yeah.
In the run up to award season.
Yeah, I like that. We can get Nate Silver on the podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
All like the breakdown.
That's right.
And then there was also, I just wanted to shout out the most anticipated game, which is a ridiculous award. But it went to Elden Ring for I think the second year in a row. Even though the sequel to the Breath of the Wild was on the list and was nominated. Nintendo ran like a sizzle reel at one point that was just like a normal commercial thing for like what they've already announced in 2022, and the sequel to Breath of the Wild was like featured in it, and it was all footage we've already seen. Of course, like Nintendo did not make news during this thing, but in the lower right corner it said the sequel to Breath of the Wild, like just like they had to identify it as something, but like they don't have a name for it yet.
Yeah, I mean that's what they've been calling it from the beginning, right?
Yeah. Is there any world where that is just the name of the game?
No, I mean, if it was like project sequel to
yes.
Breath of the Wild, then yes, I believe that could absolutely happen.
It's not. We're not talking about Square Enix here.
At the Game Awards, the latest Sonic the Hedgehog game was revealed. Sonic Frontiers appears to be an open world game of some sort, but the footage didn't really show much gameplay at all.
But it did seemingly show a lot of that, like open
of the environment
world. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we had seen like just a snippet of a clip of this in a teaser a couple months ago. Like the Sonic like starting to run, or what was that even like?
I can't even remember. Yeah, there was something that had us like in knowing that this was happening. I do like that snippet of a clip, just like a whisper.
Yes,
of
it's gossamer, not to be dissected. For that we would banish it into the wind. But yeah, it seems pretty clear now that this is like some open world or open world ish
Yeah.
Sonic the Hedgehog game.
We did, after the trailer, we did get a short synopsis which says, in Sonic Frontiers, Sonic's longtime nemesis Dr. Eggman discovers an ancient technology on the Starfall Islands and installs his AI program Sage to hack in and take over. But there is more to this technology than he realizes, and unintended consequences immediately come to bear. Sonic must race against time to discover the truth, save his friends, and maybe even save himself at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah. Lots to chew on there. Story by Ian Flynn, which I thought was interesting, who previously contributed to the Archie Comics Sonic the Hedgehog series, IDW's Sonic the Hedgehog series, and the Sonic Boom television show.
Yeah, so this is a big Sonic lore hound. He's very like into like I don't think there are like working authors today who have more information about Sonic lore like in their brain, and he's so good at like interacting with the Sonic fan base too. There's some Sonic mobile game that he's playing that people will like post their scores when like they beat him, and they're like, is this really Ian Flynn? And he's like, yeah, that's me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. I interviewed him for that Ninja Turtles thing that I worked on a couple years ago, and it's just a cool, smart guy. So I'm excited for his stuff in this game.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I was surprised that Sonic Team was bringing in somebody from the outside to craft the story for him.
Yeah, well, and like on the outside, like kind of
not
like,
a member of Sonic Team, but yeah,
right. He's been writing for the comics for over a decade, and has worked on the Sonic Boom TV show. So like he's a vetted source for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, the game will come out in holiday 2022, which means we have at least a year of the Sonic Forces borrowing program reigning unchallenged.
Yeah, okay. So we think that there's a possibility that it gets upset somehow by the release of Sonic Frontiers?
I mean, who am I to foresee the future of the Sonic Forces borrowing program? Like, the program will work itself out.
Right. It will reveal to us what needs to happen.
But I guess what I'm saying is we just haven't had to deal with it. The question has never arisen.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point.
And it's still a little ways off. Another kind of like weird reveal at the Game Awards is that Atlus is bringing Persona 4 Arena Ultimax to Switch. It's a Persona 4 fighting game that was released in arcades in 2013 and on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 in 2014.
Okay, so first I just want to, for a second, live in the world of what Atlus does to support their mainline Persona games, because it's so cool that for most Persona games, or not most, but for many Persona games, they end up putting out like a fighting game featuring the characters. They end up putting out like a rhythm game, like a dancing game featuring the characters. We had that Muso for Persona 5, where it's just like they are living in the worlds of one specific game, not like the whole franchise, right? It would be like if Square Enix was like, yeah, now we're doing a Final Fantasy VII rhythm game and a Final Fantasy VII fighting game, and will they sort of like butt up against those things with those characters appearing and stuff, like Final Fantasy Theatrhythm or like Air Guys back in the day, and other like Final Fantasy like action games. They're never like so strictly one game in the franchise. They usually do like a little like wider take at it. But it's so cool. Like if they had done, if like Fire Emblem were doing this and they were like, okay, here's a Fire Emblem Three Houses fighting game, I would be so there.
Yeah,
right?
I do think it's really cool, and I feel like it speaks one very highly of the characters, but also it's cool that the fan base loves these characters so much that they can like support these spin-off projects. I also think it's interesting that they like cluster it where it's like, no, this is Persona 4's time. You know?
Yes.
And then Persona 5 comes along and this is Persona 5's time.
Right.
They, thus far, to my knowledge, it's not like Persona 5 is out, but here's this Persona 4 fighting game. Like, it seems very much like every era gets its due.
Right. Well, and Persona 4 Golden recently came to PC, right? It came to Steam. So maybe like they're in the sort of redistributing the Persona 4 games so that they're accessible on other consoles. and on just other platforms, but still not on Switch.
Yeah. I mean, it's also an anniversary year for Persona, or we're
Oh.
entering, or like 2022 and they talked about like, oh, we're going to announce a bunch of different like projects for Persona.
Yeah.
And so I think this is just one of them. But I also think it goes back to the point that you've had many times about like the Persona mainline games on Switch, which is that they are just never.
They're never coming.
Never say never, but they're never.
But
coming.
they're never coming.
Yeah, and that we will continue to get these spin-offs because the Switch is a large enough platform that it makes sense to bring these games to Switch, but not the main event.
Right. And the main event will still be a draw back to the platforms that they're originally on. Although the fact that Persona 4 Golden came to PC does confuse me a little.
But like,
because at that point, why not put it on everything else?
Yeah, I mean, I know that these Persona games are not officially Sony exclusives.
Right.
But Sony does seem, they put some of their own first-party titles on PC.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so I feel like if they were okay with it going on a different platform, PC would be the one.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean,
if there is some agreement between
there
Atlas
simply
and Sona,
must be.
It really does seem like it. Yeah,
it simply must be.
Stock shortages really seem to be hitting the big three console makers this holiday season. The NPD Group released their November US sales report, and while Switch was the best-selling console in November with 1.13 million units, that's down significantly from previous years. And we don't have, and by significantly I mean like a few 100,000.
Yeah.
It's still a good number. We don't have specific numbers for the PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series, but we do know that combined, they were just slightly above the Switch.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
And that's all just got to be supply constraint.
100%.
Because they're still hard to get. I got my PlayStation 5 probably in November, right? It's probably when I got that. Maybe it was October. Who even remembers? Recently. And that was something where I put alerts on my phone and was really tracking stuff pretty intently. And it still took me a couple weeks to get my hands on something.
Yeah, and I feel like the Switch, in the past couple of days, I've seen the Switch OLED go on Wario 64 tweeting about it being available at a bunch of different stores, but they sell out still almost immediately. And I think that I actually don't even know what the situation is with the original Switch or the Switch Lite, if those are easy to get or if everything is just kind of challenging this holiday season.
I mean and I mean that sort of goes back to what we were talking about with design or Nintendo increasing their space for development of software, that the next marketing beat of we have new Switch hardware to sell is going to be so far away. Because you can't, it doesn't make sense to launch new hardware or new exclusive hardware, right, that runs its own games and isn't backwards and forwards compatible in this environment.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I feel like it seems to me most likely that the Switch OLED was supposed to have this upgraded chip that was rumored and reported in Bloomberg for a long time that would upscale to 4K, and that was going to be Nintendo's kind of stopgap. But I think just because of all the component shortages, they were not able to do that, and so they just went with what they had, just without the Switch OLED, just without that upgraded chip. They've been having difficulty supplying the Switch OLED at a level that the supply or demand still outstrips supply. But in a lot of ways, Nintendo is so lucky that this new generation, the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series generation, has kind of been stalled out. This transition is going to be so long, because the inventory is just not available for Sony and Xbox to do a hard transition over to the next generation. This next Sonic game, Sonic Frontiers, it was announced for PlayStation 4, for Xbox One. It's coming to everything, you know? And so
not the Wii U.
Not the Wii U. But I feel like the timing for Nintendo is very fortuitous.
Yeah.
Because I think the start of this next generation. It's going to be at least another year before there's really a lot of, supply out there, enough supply that makes it feel like the PlayStation 5 generation has really started.
Yeah, well, and that's like I think a little bit like by design and philosophy of both Microsoft and PlayStation that like or Xbox and PlayStation that they're like sort of blurring the line between console generations, and it just that. Well, but yeah, I guess I don't know. Like, it's a real chicken egg situation, right? Like,
I mean, I think you're right that Microsoft
especially, yeah.
they were very upfront about this being, like cross generational and games carrying over and or being playable on both for a while. But I feel like PlayStation was at least talking the talk of like console generations matter and all that kind of
Right.
stuff. Didn't necessarily turn out that way with their first year of PlayStation 5 hard software. A lot of that was playable on PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's largely how I'm using my PlayStation 5 right now, is as like an ultra powerful PlayStation 4, right? Like I am playing Spider-Man. I played Final Fantasy VII Remake. I've got Ghost of Tsushima on there, like all PlayStation 4 games that are souped up to, be PlayStation 5 versions, but they're still PlayStation 4 games,
Yeah. Other NPD notes. So Switch has been the best-selling console for 35 out of the previous 36 months.
Not perfect.
Not perfect. Pokemon Shining Diamond and Brilliant Pearl combined were the third best-selling software digital excluded in the US in November.
Is that right? Is it not Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl?
You're right. And when you're right, you're right.
Okay, great.
It was revealed by the Pokemon Company that in their launch week, the game shipped over 6 million copies worldwide. So,
wow.
Doing very well. Shin Megami Tensei 5 was the 6th best-selling Switch game and 16th best-selling game across all platforms in November in the United States, and the highest-grossing debut for the Shin Megami Tensei series of all time. Digital not included, and Shin Megami Tensei 4 was a $50 game on the 3DS.
Sure, and the NPD that's by dollars.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
And then also notable, Metroid Dread was the 11th best-selling Switch game last month. So keep fighting the good fight, Samus.
Keep going, Samus. A little bit of a bummer that it's not in that top 10, but Shin Megami Tensei and Pokemon are Shin Megami Tensei in its first month and Pokemon ever are going to be titans.
Also, November is when, according to the NPD, November is when Switch's like evergreen titles pop.
Sure.
Because they're like great gifts, like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Super Mario Odyssey. Like, so supposedly 11th place is like Metroid's doing very well.
Yeah, but it is still sad to not see it in the top 10. Like,
yeah, totally.
There's something that like I just want to see it like riding high in like the top 5 for a couple months or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's just never going to be the fate of a Metroid game, even when Prime 4 comes out. So, yeah, just have to resign ourselves to that.
On the topic of shortages, the Switch sold more consoles and software across the UK and Europe the week of November 23rd than any week previous. Unclear what this means overall for the month, though. But
wait, okay, so the week of November 23rd, they sold more than any other week previous?
Yeah.
Any other week?
Yeah. Crazy, right?
So they just like shipped a bunch of consoles to the.
I think it's for like the Black Friday sales.
Right.
In Europe, I think you get the Switch, or there was a bundle that was the Switch, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and 3 months of Nintendo Switch Online for like the base price, and so apparently that sold like crazy. Yeah. Publisher Dear Villagers and developer Midgar Studio have announced tactical RPG Edge of Eternity will be coming to Switch as a cloud version February 23rd, 2022. This is not like a game that I'm familiar with or anything, but it's notable to me for the fact that seemingly even smaller publishers are getting in on the cloud versions of games. And do we take that as a sign that like it has been successful for other publishers, or that people are just dabbling?
I mean, I think it's probably a combination of the two, right? That cloud versions have been successful enough, especially we've talked multiple times that like having a cloud version ready for Amazon Luna, having a cloud version ready for Google Stadia, having a cloud version ready for Microsoft whatever. I don't even know what it's called, and then also like get the Switch one ready. Like it's probably not a ton of extra development work to have it ready for like those other platforms. So I think people are really just if they're checking the cloud version box, that they're making sure it works on all or not all, but as many platforms as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense. Finally,
I wonder. Sorry, just to
Yeah.
hop back to that. I wonder if that does end up being more and more valuable in the future, and as shortages continue, and just the reliability that someone is going to be able to get access to the latest hardware just becomes like rarer and rarer. And I don't know that it's gonna, the global economy could right itself at some point, but like I don't believe that. And just like in the meantime, like how to get the games that are becoming like ever more sophisticated and demanding ever more just horsepower to run them, that maybe cloud streaming versions of these games is gonna sort of become standard or normal or necessary.
Yeah, I also wonder what happens like next generation, right? You own a Switch 2, and then like these games seemingly should be playable in perpetuity as long as the servers are up, right?
Yeah, as long as the servers are up, yeah. But we've seen servers shut down for games. Like there are games that are not playable anymore.
Right. I guess what I'm saying is like if you bought the Switch Cloud version today,
yeah,
when the Switch 2 comes out or whatever, will you be able to play it there?
Yeah.
If the client is ported to Switch 2.
Right. And also no guarantees of that.
Yeah, true. Paper Mario was added to Nintendo 64 and Nintendo Switch Online last week. And at the same time, Nintendo tweeted that Banjo-Kazooie will be arriving next month.
Wow. Right out the gate with like two absolute bangers that like are games that we were excited about when they were teased in the original announcement. It means they've got nowhere to go but down.
Well, I don't know. Like
Donkey Kong 64 is still out there.
Donkey Kong 64 is still out there. Majora's Mask is still out there.
Quest 64 is still out there.
Yeah, that's right. I'm looking forward to playing Banjo-Kazooie. I cannot even recall the last time that I picked up this game. So
I actually played a little bit of Banjo-Kazooie recently on the Xbox One because it is part of Xbox Game Pass with the Rare Replay collection. And it's like touched up and like nice. It makes some of like the inputs. The game is, nicely molded to the Nintendo 64 controller. So I will be happy to play it again on that controller. But I'm a little bit worried just to see like the lower fidelity and like crappier frame rate that like Nintendo's not going to fix anything, right? Like that's sort of one of the stickier points about the Nintendo 64 is not only they're not fixing anything and the emulation's not perfect. So like I think it'll be weird when Banjo-Kazooie is on there, and it'll be cool to have access to Banjo-Kazooie, but if you have an Xbox and you're subscribing to Game Pass, you have access to a better version of it already for no additional cost.
For me, there is something that has been fun about playing these games, warts and all.
Yeah,
like it's kind.
But they might be new warts. Is the problem?
No, there definitely might be new warts. But I don't know. It's a fun kind of like reminder of like the limitations of these consoles.
Yeah.
But what great games like there are on there.
What great games there are. We should do a Banjo-Kazooie episode. We should do an episode where
that'd be fun. That'd be fun. I'd really like
to
talk about it.
All right. Well, that is a topic for another episode, probably in another year, Mark. But let's close out the news. Okay, that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and follow us on Apple Podcasts. If you like the episode, you can share it on Facebook or Twitter or wherever you share stuff. We appreciate it. when you do, you can follow us on Twitter. I am at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell. And the show is at Nin Cart Society. You can check out the Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8BitBetty. You can get more of his music by going to 8BitBetty.com. And actually, Mark, you and I were just texting today about an 8BitBetty project. It's not actually an 8BitBetty project, but the same composer behind 8BitBetty did a bunch of lo-fi Christmas carols under the name Sleep Facing West. You can find those on his YouTube channel, Sleep Facing West, and they're all great. So check those out, or you can listen to 8BitBetty by going to the website or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying thank you for listening.
I'm Brian Husky. I'm bald.
And I'm Charlie Sanders, and I'm also bald. And we host Bald Talk on the Campfire Media Network.
Bald Talk is the podcast where two bald comedians talk to anyone bald about being bald.
But this show isn't just for baldies, Brian. Heroes will love it too.
Bald Talk gets into vulnerability, vanity, insecurity, and self-acceptance, reminding us that we all have our respective bald spots. Not that bald spots are a bad thing.
No way. I mean, my entire head is one big bald spot.
It is one huge, beautiful bald spot, Charlie.
Get Bald Talk on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.
I mean, I have like a little bit of hair, but not like you. Like, you're really bald.
I'm truly bald.
Great. I mean, it's
I'm
great.
balder than you.
You are balder than me.
Only on Bald Talk. Campfire.